Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm honored to have joining me Mayor Melham of Belleville, New Jersey. We're going to talk all about what it's like to honor the band My Chemical Romance with the key to the city in front of 55,000 fans at Metlife Stadium. There's so much to cover in this, lots of great stories shared by Mayor Melham. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. So let's jump in and let's get started. So I'd like to welcome to the show Mayor Melham of Belleville, New Jersey. Welcome, Mayor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I do a music show here, so some people are probably wondering why a mayor from a town on this show, right? So this past weekend, I was at the big My Chemical Romance concert, sold out at Metlife Stadium, and you presented the key to the city to the band. Now, before we talk specifically about that event, because I have people that watch all around the country and even the world, I just want to, for a moment, just set the stage for Belleville, New Jersey. Where is the township located, and what's the population of the town?
Sure. We are located in northern New Jersey. We border the largest city in New Jersey, the city of Newark. We are really right smack in the middle of the New York metro area. We're 15 minutes from New York City. We're a suburb, but yet we have parts of our town that look a little urban. I often say from our streets, we border the largest city, which is Newark. From our hilltops, we could see one of the largest cities in the world, which is New York City. So
Mhm.
that's really where we are. And if you know really anything about Belleville, and I mentioned it during my remarks, that we have a really amazing musical history for a town
Right.
that's 3.5 square miles, 40,000 population. I mean, we have some great musical legends: Connie Francis, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and obviously My Chemical Romance.
Yep, and that's not even counting the gold medal people that come there and professional NFL players and Pulitzer Prize winners. Joe Pesci, one of my favorite actors. So
Sure.
it's amazing the number of people that have come out of Belleville. So my question was, as you were talking about this Saturday, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing how many people come from Belleville. What made you decide, hey, My Chemical Romance is the band that I'm going to for the first time, give them the key to Belleville?
Yeah, it kind of snowballed. It really did. I'm just started my eighth year now as mayor, and about maybe a year ago, had the opportunity to meet Frankie Valli for the first time,
Oh, wow.
and I was at a concert with him, and I had my mom there, which is she's a little younger than he is, but definitely of that era. And we had
Mhm.
opportunity to go backstage and chat with him a bit, and again, a worldwide sensation, right? Known
Absolutely.
throughout the entire planet. And he
Yes.
looks at me, and in all honesty, he looks at me, he goes, "When the hell are you going to name something after me?" And, I laughed about it and I
Uh-huh.
said, "Well, Frank, listen, if you commit to coming to Belleville, I will find something to name after you." So we are thinking about that, and
Nice.
certainly working on that. So back to My Chemical Romance, about just about a year and a half ago, in May of 2024, I am working on a fairly large speech that I give almost annually called the State of the Township speech. And I'll never forget. I'm sitting at home and I'm working on it. We're about 3 weeks out, and I get a phone call about 11:30 at night from a buddy of mine, Mike Citarella. Went to high school with him, kept in touch with him a long time. He had a connection to My Chemical Romance, and for years he had been telling me, I think now you're a younger mayor, and there's a
Mhm.
new blood, and new life in the town. I think town should really honor them. I think they're a little, not a chip on the shoulder, but I think they feel a little like not hurt, but like a little. Uh, almost like that we just never cared about them. We never wanted to
Mm.
honor them. And I said, well, Mike, there's certainly no disrespect or insult. Like, it just happened. They came up during an era that the town was, run by different people, different administrators.
Yeah.
Let me see what I could do. So I hang up with him, and about 15 minutes later, he goes, "I can't believe this. I can't believe this." He goes, "Do me a favor, turn on MTV Worldwide or MTV World
Mhm.
Stage, something like that." I said, "I'm like, I don't even know if I have that station." He goes, "Oh, you gotta find it. You gotta find it." So I find it, and all of a sudden he goes, "Look, that's My Chemical Romance." And I think they
Mm.
were like in sold out show in Germany or something like that.
Right, right.
You gotta honor these guys. I said, "Okay, Mike." So I hang up with him. And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'll be damned. I come out to a song every single year during my State of the Township address. I said, I'm
Mhm.
going to come out to a My Chemical Romance song." And
That's great.
I decided to come out to My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade. And
Wow.
after I took the podium, I spent about 2 or 3 minutes specifically talking about My Chemical Romance and how that we were going to honor them one day. And that clip of me coming out and me speaking to them eventually made their way to either management or the band directly. And
Mhm.
we knew that they were going to be back in town, in the near future, and something's going to happen. That's kind of the early story as that how that happened.
I would have never thought that that would have started back in 2024, right? You said May of 2024 is when this
Yes.
first all started. Wow. So when
Yeah.
you come up with this idea, right? Because I've seen, being a music fan, I've seen other artists in other cities get a key to the city. And I've always wondered, how does that happen? Is it your decision? Do you have to get approval from like the county? Like how does that ultimately decide, yes, we're going to go forward with this?
So great question. And I'm still getting some feedback from some of my colleagues that are elected
Okay.
officials. There's been some local outcry here within
Okay.
Belleville, and who knew it was going to happen and when, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of interesting twists to this how this whole thing happened, even prior to we get to the backstage stuff and all that. But
Hmm.
uh, really, I get a phone call on Tuesday, 5 days before, from Metlife saying, "Hey, Mayor Melham, great. Listen, we have you scheduled for Saturday for a presentation, the key to the city." And I was stunned because
Wow.
I I I, I was going to go away the last weekend actually,
Okay. Oh, wow.
and before I made the plans to go away, I see my calendar says My Chemical Romance question mark Metlife question mark. So I
Mhm.
knew a year ago I had put in they were going to be there, but
Right.
that's it. So I get a phone call on Tuesday. "You're presenting." I said, "Okay." Uh, I hang up and I said to some of my staff here, I said that this is going to pose some logistical problems. First, Belleville's never had a key to the city.
Right.
Two, we don't have keys to the city. Three, I find out that it's not one that each band member wants one. And I'm like, okay, we got 3 or 4 days to pull this off. And then I went to
Mhm.
work to do that. But basically, as the mayor, I'm the senior ambassador here.
Sure.
It would have been something that was my decision. And I worked for a couple days to not only produce 4 individual keys, which the band specifically requested, by the way,
Mm.
but also a very large 36-inch, pretty heavy, like uh, presentation key, which is what was going to be presented on stage.
Right.
And again, I had no idea. There's a lot of intricacies to this story, but at that moment, I'm thinking, backstage, meet them for a half hour,
Right.
take a picture,
So at that
present.
point, it's Tuesday. You don't even know you're going to be up on stage at MetLife.
No, no, it was probably
Wow.
now Wednesday or Thursday. They're like, "Okay, so we MetLife, yeah, I think it was MetLife that initially said it."
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I'll tell you, I know this because I've been writing my second post about the experience now.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until 4 o'clock on Thursday that I still had no details, nor did I have any
Wow.
contact with the band. It wasn't
Okay.
until Friday morning that MetLife gave me contact to the band's manager. So now it's
Hmm.
Friday morning, and the band manager says, "Yes, we do need the ceremonial large key and the four
Hmm.
individual keys." I got that.
Right.
Okay. Gerard has been working on this all week, and he is weaving this into the narrative of the show. I'm like, okay, so he's going to mention it during the show. No, no, no. You're going to be on stage during the show. So, all right. So now again, I'm
Hmm.
thinking, going to walk on stage, hand it to them. We're gonna take a picture. 5 of us going to take a nice picture, and
Right.
poof, I get ushered off. I'm done. And I go, "Just want to be clear. Like, I'm going to be on stage to present it." "Yes, that's all I'm doing." "Yeah, that's all we
Right.
need you to do." "Okay, so I'm not speaking." "Oh, yes, no, you are going to speak in front of the 55,000
Yeah,
people."
that's what I'm thinking in front of
"Yes."
55,000 people. Right.
I said, "Okay, I'm on." I said,
Mhm.
"How much time do I got?" I'm a logistics detail person. I
Sure.
have a background in production, and I
Okay.
understand what goes into it. I'm saying, "Well, how long?" "Oh, a couple minutes." I said, "Well, no, I'm going to be less than a minute."
Right.
Um, And then we get into the intricacies of, and you would probably know this, and your fans know this, but like, he's like, listen, we only have so many amount of minutes to get this done because we have percussions and explosions and it's an
Right.
open air arena
Yeah.
and there's a racetrack next door and we have to time everything not to interfere with the horses. I'm like, wow,
Wow.
this is, this is a lot.
Right, right,
It's a lot. So, and I said, well, I have a lot of questions about the details of this. And I said, for instance, I've now seen, because for 2 days now, I've been watching My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade live show in
right.
Mexico and Texas and California. And I'm like, well, I can't walk out with the key and then go up to the podium because I won't get that close to it. So you're going to have to work on all those details with Gerard. I said, when?
Right.
We're going to do a meet and greet tomorrow. I'm like, oh, so the day of, we're going to figure this out. And
Oh, this is great.
so we wound up with a meet and greet at, he said, be there 1 o'clock. You're going to be here from 1 to 3. I'm sorry, 1:30 to 3. We're going to do a walkthrough on stage with you. I'm like, oh, that's music to my ears. That's
Yep.
the kind of stuff I want to hear. We're going to do a private meet and greet where you'll talk to Gerard about it. And let me tell you something, Gerard, he wasn't lying. Gerard was dialed in. He knew what he wanted. He knew how it was going to go down. He had weaved this thing in, and it was interesting, and the one thing I will say, and based on the feedback of my first post and my second one's getting ready to go out today, the fans were and are so appreciative of the few behind the scenes photos I shared and the little bit of the stories like what I'm saying now, because they either see them as in character or just a band on stage. They very rarely get a chance to see them backstage or have a story about them. And they've really appreciated some of the stuff I've been sharing about how this whole thing went down. And, taking nothing away from the band themselves, I have a newly found respect for live bands and performances and the production that goes into it. But I can't say it enough. These 4 gentlemen, 3 of which are from Belleville and 1 is from Kearney, all different in their own ways, and all could not have been more sincere and more appreciative in their own ways, that I kept thanking them for having me there in the afternoon, and they kept thanking me for being there. And it was like we really gelled well, and they just couldn't. I mean, I gave them custom street signs, My Chemical Romance Way. I gave them 4 of them, and they just, I mean, Frank was elated at this whole thing. I mean, he literally said to me, we were eating lunch together, and he says to me, can I tell you something? He goes, I'm a little more excited about the key than I am the performance tonight.
Right.
I handed him the key backstage. He goes, are you going to be down here for a little bit more? I'm like, yeah, I think about another 10 minutes with you guys. He goes, I'm going to run upstairs and show this to my mother. I mean, like, they were so sincere and such great guys.
Right. Well, they grew up in the same town, right? So and Metlife is only, correct me if I'm wrong, 5-6 miles away from Belleville, right?
Absolutely.
It's basically right around the corner. So it's almost like, I would think, for them, a dream come true, that here it is. They grew up right there. They're playing now the biggest stadium in the state, one of the biggest stadiums in America. It's amazing. As you're telling the story and you're talking about Gerard being the one that chose, like, to do it during the whole how to do the whole presentation, I was expecting you to say that you suggested, well, I came out to the Black Parade back in May of 2024. Let's do it during the Black Parade song. And so did he know that you came out to the song, the Black Parade, a year and a half ago?
Yes. So by the time I got with them backstage, I had showed them the large key, and I showed them some of the smaller keys. The smaller keys, it's basically a plaque with a 3D key on it. Has an inscription on the back of it with the QR code to that 5-minute clip. And when I told him that, he said, yes. He goes, yeah, we all watched it and we loved it. So they had prior seen that. And, talking to the manager, I guess, on Friday, and finding out that it was going to happen during Welcome to the Black Parade, I, acknowledged that is their main song. And I just got done writing about this. And I was hesitant about that idea. And I said to Gerard, because we were all talking, there's some great photos of us in a circle talking. And then as Gerard and I started getting into the storyline of it all, I noticed everybody kind of faded away. It was just the 2 of us kind of talking. And, I said to him, are you sure? Are you sure Welcome to the Black Parade is the time to do this? He said, yeah, this is when I want to do it. I said, okay. He goes, so the song is going to start and then we're going to interrupt it. I'm like, you know your crowd better than I do. I said,
Right.
is this a good idea? He goes, this is what we're going to do. And I said, okay, but I'm the one that has to walk out after the song is interrupted. And again, I had done my homework and I have seen that whole song is a production. I mean,
Yes.
it's not just two stagehands that wheel out the podium. That's part of it. When those stagehands wheel out that podium, 3 or 4 or 5 songs in, the crowd goes crazy,
Yeah.
and then they die down. And then he suspiciously walks around and he touches it a little bit, and the crowd goes crazy. And then he gets to the podium, and the first note of that piano, the crowd goes
Yes.
crazy. I'm going, and then you're going to stop it. I have to walk out. Like, and yeah, so he goes, yeah. So then we got back into, who's going to carry it out. And they thought maybe the clerk was going to carry it out or somebody they call the twins, but I forget who else carried it out. And, again, I'm a logistics guy, and I'm saying to him, so, okay. And I've spoken in large venues before, and I understand acoustics and I understand how it all works. I'm like, so, when I'm going to be up there, I said, you guys have earpieces in, and that's like a monitor for you guys. And I said, I'm only going for about a minute. And I kind of know what I'm going to say. And I'm a public speaker, and I know
Right.
how to elicit a reaction from the crowd. And I didn't want to step on myself. If I said something and there was a delay and the crowd clapped and I started stepping out, I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I said, so, with the delay, it's going to be difficult. And Gerard goes, yeah, it's going to be difficult. Okay. I said, thank you.
That's great.
I feel great about that.
That's
and
great.
then we're talking about he was very coy. And again, something that was amazingly gracious about him was that he went out of his way, not knowing my understanding of the band or of this particular tour and the characters that they play.
Yes.
He went out of his way to make sure that I felt very comfortable and that nothing shockingly was going to happen that I would feel as a slight or as an act of disrespect. And he went out of his way to say, we're going to be in character. Like, we're not My Chemical Romance up there. Right. We will be in character, and we're staying in character. And I said, yeah, I've seen the performance. I thought that. And he was kind of setting me up a little bit without telling me exactly what's going to happen. He goes, there is going to be an exchange. I said, okay. I said, so I give you the large key. I said, are you taking it? He goes, thought about it. He goes, I'm not sure what the character is going to do at that moment. So I'm just going to need you to work with me. Okay.
This is
I will
great.
work with you. I could do that. And then he goes, there's going to be an exchange. I said, okay. He goes, we're going to probably give you like a sickle from our land. I said, okay. He goes, and probably an animal. I go, an animal? He goes, an animal. And I said, like an animal. He goes, like an animal. I said, okay. I go, am I going to have to like carry it out or drag it out? So he looks at me, he thinks about it. He looks to his right. He goes, let's cancel the animal. And the animal was out. Little did I know that they've replaced it with a fish.
Right. So you didn't know they were going to present you with a fish in that moment.
So the way I did it was at the very end during the exchange. Well, first there was an issue, and again, I don't know if you care to know about the details of this.
Yeah, I love all the details. This is great. Right. I'm loving it.
So now we went through all the logistics, and now it's like 2 songs in, I'm in the pit, and the manager comes down. He's like, let's go, buddy. So I go up, and I wasn't nervous about speaking. I was anxious, and I was curious about the production side of it. And mostly we talked a lot about, how things were going to work and what step is first and second. And I had seen enough of the live performance to know that there is no microphone on the podium. Gerard walks up to a stand that's got a wired mic, and he starts over there. He unhooks it and he brings it around, suspiciously walks around, does his thing, and goes.
You really did your homework.
I did. So I said, well, I'm saying to Gerard, like, there's going to be a mic. Yeah, there'll be a mic there. So, okay, we go up on stage. Now it's game on. The stagehands they're pushing out the podium. The place is going crazy. They die down. Gerard suspiciously walks around, touches it a little bit. Crowd goes crazy. And I'm looking, and there's no microphone. There's no microphone. And I'm going to the manager next to him. I'm going, there's no mic.
Right.
There's no mic. There's no mic. And he gets on his radio and he starts talking. And I mean, I know I'm seconds away from walking out there. And I'm assuming in his radio, maybe Gerard had it in his ear, because then Gerard went and took a cordless and fixed it on the podium. Okay, that's cool. Then the first note happens, the crowd goes crazy.
Yep.
And then I see the clerk walk up, tug on him. Interestingly, there's one angle. There's a lot of obviously video of this, but there's
Sure.
one angle of a close up of Gerard like leaning down to talk to the clerk. If you watch that again and watch Gerard's face, Gerard is hysterical laughing.
Really?
I
Oh,
don't
I have
know
to find that.
clerk, God knows what the clerk was saying to him or what awful, terrible, funny things he was saying to him. But two different times, Gerard laughs, composes himself, and then he starts laughing a second time. And I didn't know that was happening, obviously, until I watched it after the fact. So then the crowd starts, like, I'm hearing like some slight booing. I'm hearing some because the crowd didn't like that the song stopped.
Stop. Right.
The band is walking around like confused and like, what's going on? And I'm going, oh shit, man, this might turn. This thing might turn, and I'm the guy that's going to be up there. And Gerard then says, "Hold on, it would appear that the mayor of Belleville has to bestow a great honor on us." And the place goes crazy. So I come walking out, and the spotlight hits me, and again, the crowd goes crazy.
Yep.
I can't figure it out. And then I start talking, and I mention the Belleville things, and the crowd just goes crazy, and it goes perfect. I get off, I grab the key, I walk over. As I was walking out, when Gerard announced me, as I was going out, the manager grabs me, goes, "Frank's going to take it. Frank's going to take it." It's okay. So when I'm done, I grab the key. I walk over to Frank. I didn't know they were going to be bowing on their knees.
Right.
I give it to Frank. And part of me saying the one I went into this with one rule. I said, once I hand the key, because Gerard said, "Work with me up there." Right. I said, "This is not my show. I don't want to be the same. If I feel the exchange is going to happen, I'm just going to fade right off stage. I don't want to be the guy that they send a hook for it." Right. So for a while, if you watch that, I hand it to Frank. I take 2 steps back and I'm looking around, I'm assessing what's going on, and I'm not seeing Gerard do much. And eventually Gerard gets up and he starts walking toward the mic. And again, I don't know if there's going to be an exchange or not. So I start to back up, and he grabs the mic. He goes, "Well, we have an honor from our land." He grabs the wheat. And he hands it to me, goes, "May your house never go hungry," or something like that. And
right.
He hands me the wheat, and I hold it up in the air. The crowd goes crazy. And then the butler's standing there with this giant fish. And I'm going, "What the fuck is that?" And Gerard says that we have another thing. It was caught from the moat outside. I wasn't following it, but he takes it, they plop it on me. And it's been widely reported in some outlets that this was a prop fish. This is
a real fish.
Dead, stinky fish. Teeth, eyes looking at me.
And from where I was sitting in the low 100s, this thing looked big.
It was. It was 30 inches. And that was I think that was the humorous part, because none of the 55,000 people knew it was a live fish.
Right.
So it was a joke between us, because it didn't mean anything to anybody else that was there. I will say, interestingly, in looking at the photo that's now out there of the fish, they actually wrapped it in newspaper, but it had cherry blossom branches in it. And Belleville is the cherry blossom capital of America. Right. That's literally our slogan. And I thought that was an amazing touch. But, one thing, there were 2 things that Gerard said backstage. One, he wanted to make sure I was clear that they were going to remain in character. And he said something so genuinely sincere to me when we were talking about that. He said, "None of this is a joke on you." He goes, "The characters are, may do something funny up there, or it may turn funny." But he made it it was so sincere when he said it to me. He goes, "None of this is poking fun at you." Right. And I never took it that way, which was great. And he even said, toward the end of the show, when the last couple songs, they were in the center there. Yep. And out of nowhere, he did a call out to me again and said, "Hey, Mayor Melham is a great sport. He had no idea we were giving him a fish, but he was a great sport about it." And the place cheered, of course. It was just a great experience all around.
It was one of the things, because I live on Long Island. So when we were driving back, my family and we probably spent half of our drive back talking about the presentation of the key and the fish. And we were wondering, was the fish real? Was it not real? Did the mayor know they were going to stay in character? How did he feel about that? So to me, you're answering all the questions that I'm sure myself, my family, and all the fans that were there were wondering. My question then is, so you got this wheat, you got the fish that's a living, or well, I guess not living anymore, but it was a real fish. What do you do with it afterwards? Right. What do you do with that stuff?
I'm walking off stage with it, and Brian, the manager, was there. And he looks at me, smiles. He goes, "I knew the whole time. I didn't want to tell you." And I'm laughing.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "I'm assuming you want us to take that." I said, "It stunk." I
Right.
go,
I don't want to put
"Yeah."
that in my car.
So he takes. He goes, "Well, we'll take the wheat." And I had an all access pass. He goes, "Well, we'll take the wheat and keep it back here at any point in the show." I go, "No, no, I'm going to go into the pit now, and I'm going to go up to my suite." I said, "I'm going to take the wheat." I took more photos with that wheat, and everybody wanted photos with the wheat. It was a great experience. And the fans, again, I was really touched and remain really touched, one, at how sincere the band was, that this meant these are international, worldwide superstars, right?
Yes.
And the fact that they thought this much of this gesture was just amazing to me. But seeing the response of the fans, and reading some comments, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, reading some of the comments, and I mean, these fans are saying things like, "Where were you when My Chemical Romance got the key to the city?" And one girl said, I promised myself I wasn't going to sob during this concert, but when I saw the mayor up there presenting a key to them, it made me sob." And I just had somebody from Germany reach out and somebody from
Wow.
Austria reach out, and the comments are, people are saying like, "This band saved my life." And to see them now be honored the way that you honored them, thank you for taking the time to do that.
Yeah.
It really, really meant a lot to me.
Yeah, no, the feedback that I've seen online has been incredible. And it's, we all know the political world we live in today, and politics could be very hit and miss. And it's so wonderful to me to see 99.9999999% of the feedback here has been not just good, but over the top phenomenal. And it actually puts a huge smile on my face. And I love to hear that you were such a good sport about it, because that's one of the things we spoke about on the car ride. Is like, gee, did the mayor know? And did he feel slighted at all that they
Right.
stayed in character? And it's kind of great to hear that not only were you a good sport, but they also made sure that you were aware and treated
They
you with the
did.
respect you deserve beforehand as well.
They did. And then even again, after, now, again, these are big time superstars, and God knows what they're doing afterwards. I mean, they're in the area, they're seeing their family, they're hanging out. I got a text message at 1 o'clock in the morning from Brian, the band manager, once again saying to me, "Mayor, just thank you so much. The guys are so thrilled at the keys, but how the performance went down. Everything was perfect. You were great. Thank you again for being such a great sport. Thank you for doing this." And I'm thanking them for having me. It was just an amazing experience. It really, really was. It's something that uh, I'm going to cherish for a long time, because one, how many people on planet Earth get to stand and speak in front of 55,000 people? There's not many.
Right.
And I could say that I stood there. And the one thing that I joked about, again, because as we talked earlier, I'm into the logistics and the production side of things. As detailed as Gerard was and how he had a vision for how this thing was going to go, the one thing I thought was strange was, at no time did anybody ask me what I was going to say. And I'm thinking, I'm unique when it comes to mayors. I'm on the younger side. I'm far more media and communication savvy than some of my older mayoral colleagues. And, what if I was this, 70, 80-year-old mayor, which is common here in New Jersey, that gets out there in a suit and wants to read like a formal proclamation. Whereas it wouldn't have, I knew the crowd I was talking to, and I knew the amount of time that I had, and I kind of knew the points I wanted to make. I knew how I wanted to deliver it to elicit the response, and I knew I wanted to get in and get out. There's actually a quick video of me telling Gerard backstage, like, "Listen, this is your show. I'm going to be 55 seconds with no applause, applause, maybe another 15, 20 seconds, and I'm out. This is not my show. This is your show. I'm interrupting your most popular song. I don't know how the fans are going to respond." But it really went well. And I think the production side of it, I think it exceeded expectations probably on everybody's.
Oh, absolutely. Beforehand, I was like, I'm surprised they didn't do the presentation when they were in the center stage, where they could have been out of character.
Yeah.
But now hearing the story and having been there and seen it, I'm like, oh, it was so much better to do it the way you guys did, really. And obviously Gerard, like you said, had this vision, and I could understand if I was in your shoes, I would have been scared to death of the opening notes of one of their biggest songs starts and I'm interrupting it. they're going to be throwing eggs at me, right? But it really, on every level, to me, it worked perfectly, and it ties back to your experience a year and a half ago of coming out to the song. It really was, I'll say, the perfect way to honor them and for you to be a part of it as well. To me,
Yeah, it was concerning to me. And I said to Gerard, Gerard said to me, he goes, do you have a suit? And I said, this was like in the afternoon. I said,
Mhm.
well, I do, but I'm not wearing a suit tonight. And my concern was, if you recall, I was in black pants, a
Yep.
black sport coat. And I said, you guys interrupt the song, and I come up to, they might think I'm a stagehand, or they
Mm.
might think I'm part of the team. Like, and I said, is somebody going to introduce me? And the manager said, well, let's talk to Gerard about that. And Gerard said that he would introduce me. And he thought for a second, and he goes, but honestly, he goes, I don't know in that moment what the character is going to say, but
Mhm.
I'll introduce it because, I knew I was going to be a minute. And when you speak like that, it's too big of an opportunity to go off the cuff. So
Right.
I knew what I wanted to say. I had it practiced for the most part. I had it rehearsed, but not knowing how I was going to be introduced affects what I say. So
Sure, of course.
if and that's what I told him. I said, if there's no introduction, well, I got to come up and spend a sentence or two explaining who the hell I am. I
Right.
said, but if I'm introduced, my first line or two has nothing to do with who I am because now I'm known. And I'd like to not make that decision on the fly when I'm standing there for the 55,000. But
Exactly.
so I knew he was going to introduce me, and I
Mhm.
had, I had some of that knowledge worked in, and
Right. Right.
I hit everything I wanted to hit. A little bit about our history. I got in, I got out. I threw bouquets to Belleville. Every time the crowd heard Belleville, they went
They
absolutely
did,
crazy.
absolutely. And for you, I mean, like you said, you do public speaking all the time, but I'm going to assume you've never spoke in front of 55,000 people before, and especially not 55,000 rock fans, right? There's a big difference between being in front of people who want to hear a political speech and being in front of 55,000 people who just had one of their favorite songs interrupted, right? So was
Right.
it nerve-wracking for you? Like afterwards, were you like, that's over with?
Yeah.
Or were you like, damn, that was damn cool. Who am I going to honor next? Yeah.
I was I was eager to get beyond it and
Okay.
to enjoy the show. And listen, you said it perfectly. One, you're speaking in front of 55,000. Two, you've just interrupted the most famous song the band has.
Mhm.
And this is not 55,000, mature adult country fans. These are, grunge, emo,
Yeah.
kids, white face and black and goth
Hmm.
and piercings. And, I did not know how they were going to respond to, some politician coming out for a
Hmm.
photo op, and,
Yep.
I was totally prepared for some negative, a decent percentage of negative
Mm.
comments. And I'm telling you, as you said it earlier,
What wasn't there?
they're far and few to find. You can't find them. I
No.
mean, it was the band, the fan base so touched at the behind the scenes access that I gave them.
Yep.
And even like when they hear this interview, they're going to be
Oh,
touched
I think
to
so.
the behind the scenes, the photos, the stories, the funny stories, the dialogue between Gerard and myself, and
Yep.
how that all went down, and the no microphone and the fish, and
It's
Gerard
all
like, you got to
great,
work on me.
great, great stories. I would have never thought that it went down like that. I would have figured that it was all like well planned. Well, I wouldn't think they put you on their stage and say, "Just run with us. We don't know what we're going to say." That's such an amazing part of this
That was a
story.
big chance. That was a big
Yeah.
chance for them to take, because if I
Yes.
couldn't hold up my end of the bargain, if I couldn't perform, if I couldn't get it done in the way that I
The
think
whole
I
thing
got
could
it
fall
done,
apart then. Mhm.
right? Yeah, it would
Yeah.
have shit the bed real quick.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned before, and I saw the pictures online also, that you gave them the street signs. Is there any plan? Because I know my Chemical Romance fans have always been like, oh, there should be a Mikey Way. There should be a Gerard Way. Any plans to name a street after? I know you said Frankie Valli. You spoke with him last year. Any plans for something like that?
Yeah, we're definitely talking about it. When I told Brian, the manager, on Friday that I was bringing some of the street signs, and told him that it was a surprise, and he actually kept it. The band, until I opened that box up in front of them, had no idea. And there's great photo of Frank holding it above his head, and
Mhm.
they loved it. And he said to me, he goes, how many did you make? I said, well, I made five, one for each of the four members. He goes, and the fifth one? I said, well, the fifth one's for me. I'm hoping to get it autographed for the mayor. So I said, but I know where you're going with this. Yes, we can definitely do something like that. Obviously, gonna have to get the band here
Right.
to do that again. But and also keep in mind, there's, most people believe that Gerard and Mikey are from Belleville,
Right.
and while they are, it's actually Frank that's the only one that was actually born
Born.
and raised here. Mikey
Right.
and Gerard were raised here. Um, but
And Ray lived like a mile or two away, right?
yeah, he's in
Mhm.
Kearney, right across the
Mhm.
river, and he was great too because he kind of stayed a little bit in the background. And when I was chatting with him, when I gave him his key, he goes, I feel like this really isn't for me. I said, listen, you're an honorary Belleville today. I just
Mhm.
decreed that you have it. I said, but I am going to take that Sharpie over there and put a little asterisk next to your plaque because you're
Nice.
not really from Belleville. But I told him, I said, listen, there's most people think that's just Gerard and Mikey. So, and I told this to him, Frank ate this up, by the way, when I told him. I said, Frank, like historically, people think that My Chemical Romance, they grew up on Liberty Street. Liberty Street is a nice suburban residential street by our high school. I said, but I've come to find out that Mikey and Gerard were actually from the Silver Lake section, which is way across town. And I said, so just so you know, Frank, everybody that thinks My Chemical Romance from Belleville thinks your house is the My Chemical Romance house.
Right.
And he was grinning
He
ear
was
to ear.
right.
So my point is, we will have to do two different street namings because
Okay.
there were two houses. There's one on Liberty and one on a street called Salter Place. And so we will hope to have them here to formally do that. That'll be a great day as well.
That'll be awesome. And then you just have to be prepared for 55,000 people lining the street to be there for that.
More so, the stealing of the street sign, I think, would be
Let's
a
hope
nice
not, right?
memento. But and again, I learned some things myself. I learned that Gerard and I went to elementary school together. So
Oh, wow.
again, knowing that they were from the other side of town, the Silver Lake section, I just assumed they went to that grammar school over there called School 4,
Hmm.
and I went to School 3. So Mikey says, "Hey, do you know any of the teachers from School 3?" I said, "I know of them all. I went to School 3."
Hmm.
So I don't know. We never got to the bottom of why they attended my school when they were on the other side of town. But then Gerard comes over and they start naming all these teachers. And we had the same teacher. And Gerard's only 2 years younger than I am. So
Okay.
there's no doubt that Gerard and I were in elementary school together.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
we didn't know that.
amazing. What a small world, right? So it's funny because I saw the pictures backstage and I'm like, what do politicians and rock stars speak about when they're together like this? I bet you there's not a lot of overlap of common interests, but in this case, you guys went to the same school together, so that's really kind of like cool to me.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge, I hate to say it, especially on this podcast, I'm not a huge music buff, or certainly not. I've
Nothing wrong
been
with that.
to I've been to less than five concerts in my life. I tend to be
Mm.
more of a country guy, or
Mhm.
my upbringing, I was an East Coast, West Coast rap guy. So,
Okay, yeah.
and you'll appreciate this. Usually you get your musical influence from your older siblings. Well, I have a sister, Lori, who's 3 years older than me, who has been a Kiss fanatic since she's 11, I think.
Yes.
My first concert in my life, and one of my last ones for about 25 years, was she was 16 and my mother wouldn't let her go to the concert without taking her 13-year-old brother with her.
No.
And that was my first and last concert for about 25 years. And, so people
Oh,
say,
that's
well, why
good.
didn't I get, why wasn't I into rock and heavy metal like my sister? And I said, well,
Mhm.
listen, you do like to emulate your older siblings and get their musical influence from them. But, when I was a kid, when I was in number 3 school with Gerard, probably,
Mhm.
Michael Jackson was what everybody cared about, not
Sure.
not heavy metal. And while my sister was into that, I wasn't. So I've said since Saturday that I have a newfound respect for the
Mhm.
production, but it's a first time respect because this is all kind of new to me. And, being the backstage and seeing the how, just how the production side of it goes down. I have a
Mhm.
background in TV production. That was my
Okay.
major in college. So I've always had a respect for that, but seeing what these bands go through and seeing what the artists go through, and it's remarkable. It's really left a mark on me for sure.
Well, to me, just hearing about your enthusiasm, your excitement, and respect for what they've done, to me, just adds to the whole experience. And I'd be remiss if I don't mention this last thing here. One of the things I love is that a lot of the musical artists that come from New Jersey seem to wear that badge very proudly, right? Whether it's Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, now My Chemical Romance, there's always like they wave that flag. We're from New Jersey. And then of course at the end of the My Chemical Romance concert,
Uh,
they perform "Living on a Prayer," which on paper one would think My Chemical Romance covering Bon Jovi, that doesn't work, but damn, it worked. And the whole
yeah,
stadium was just electric and celebrating, really, to me, the music of New Jersey. And I know Gerard said
yeah.
it was like the New Jersey rock and roll anthem. And it was such a feel good moment, not just for the band, but even just for the state of New Jersey to me that night.
I mean, it really was. And I've seen some context applied to that. Again, I I'm not here to say that I've watched every single My Chemical Romance concert since they've been out, because I certainly didn't.
But you certainly watched your fair share in the last few weeks, it sounds like.
Last week or so, yes. But there was a lot of contrast with a lot of people talking about the last time they were in New Jersey. They played Prudential Center, which was a much smaller venue, probably
I
half
was
the
there.
size.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I did see multiple people say, never once during that show did New Jersey come up, or there were no references to New Jersey at all. And it just, I'm certainly not taking credit for this, but I think the whole key to the city, and then, being back here. And I think that kind of did spiral in a good way, where the whole night became references. Gerard made references to seeing the stars and the airplanes flying around the stadium, and that he's been in California a little too long. And I think Frank is still here, by the way. But it really became, as you said, the whole night really surrounded around New Jersey pride and being. And again, do I think that 55,000 people recognized my name as the mayor of Belleville? No. Or recognized me when I walked on stage? No. But since that was a New Jersey crowd and they hear Gerard say Belleville, New Jersey, and they listen, you could have said Bloomfield or Nutley or Montclair or Jersey City, and the place would have went equally as crazy, because they recognized the name of that city. And it was just a night for New Jersey to be proud of, for sure.
It really was. I was glad to be a part of it. And to me, it was just, like I said, we drove home and that was half the conversation, was just talking about that. So, and it was a great show. Anything else you want to mention about whether it is the pre-setup for this or the event itself that we haven't spoke about or covered here?
I think we went back and forth a lot on it. Again, it was a really amazing experience. Some of the behind the scenes stuff was just great. The band, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't constantly say it, how impressed I was at their graciousness, and how much thought that Gerard and the guys really put into this. They were really ecstatic about it. I know Gerard and Mikey's mom was there. I met Frank's family. They were all just so gracious. And again, the fan base, being how appreciative they have been for the behind the scenes look at this thing, and some of the stories that are going back and forth. And some major outlets out there got it wrong. They called the fish a prop, and it certainly was not a prop. So we're breaking some news here.
We'll make sure we set that record straight for sure. Right? So, but Mayor, I want to thank you for your time. This was absolutely amazing. I will certainly be looking forward to when the announcement comes out, maybe for not one, but two streets being named in their honor. And you know what? Even Frankie Valli, to me, I mean, what a legend he is himself, and he deserves an honor as well. So hopefully lots of good things coming for the town in the near future. The township, I guess, is the right terminology, right? Township. Yes. Excellent. Well, thank you again for your time. I really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time.
Likewise. Bye-bye. Alrighty. There you have it. Once again, I'd like to thank Mayor Melham for joining me and sharing all the inside stories about presenting the key of Belleville to My Chemical Romance. That was a lot of fun, Mayor. Thank you so much. Lots of laughs. I know the fans are going to really enjoy hearing those stories. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.